Hey guys, welcome back to Track News Daily. It's your girl Serenity. So I did something a little bit different this time, y'all. I decided to ask for viewer questions. I asked on my Instagram _SerenityD. So if you don't already follow me, go ahead and follow me. But you guys delivered. These are just some of the track hot topics or questions that you guys have, or just some things that y'all want to debate. So let's go ahead and get into it. Should cross country be in the Winter Olympics? Honestly, I could see it. I think I would really like to see it. Not only because cross country needs a lot more love, but because I watched the Winter Olympics this year. And boy, it was exciting, y'all. I don't remember the last time I watched the Winter Olympics, but this time around I definitely did, and it was exciting. So just to see the level of production that goes into the Winter Olympics, getting it for cross country, I think would do so much for track. It really would. Like, you're opening up a whole new world of people to cross country. Like, imagine like the cameras following them on these, because I love the trails. When I've watched cross country, the trails are great. Y'all are already running in the winter. I mean, shoot, it might as well, especially because you see so many cross country champions, but it's like, what does that count for real? I'm sure it gives you the confidence going into outdoors, but what does it do for you? And maybe like some cross country people can definitely help me understand that, because for it to be for it to just be in the winter and then they come to outdoors and then it's just like, so what? Like, can that translate over? And a lot of distance athletes, are having to run across country just because they have to, and they're not that good at it, but so I just think that all around it would do a lot for the cross country community for it to be in the Winter Olympics. And like I said, imagine that production, the cameras, and imagine that freaking route and that trail to do it. That would be really exciting, y'all. I'm not gonna lie. That would be really exciting. Like, and I think that it would bring a lot more of the best distance athletes out. Give them a chance to go and get themselves an Olympic victory in cross country, and then, come outdoors and do what they got to do there too on the track. So, short answer, yeah. You know what, y'all, I buy that. I buy that for sure. All right, next one. Do athletes need media training? Absolutely. I could go on and on and on about this one. The athletes that I have interviewed, especially for track, they don't how can I say this without sounding mean? They could use media training. I've spoken about this before. I cover other sports other than track. And track is the one that I believe needs the most work in terms of how does this thing work? And like, we are a partnership. Whether you like me or not, like media or not, you have to do it. And I have never seen, not never, but I rarely see that being a problem in other sports because they get fined for it. Track has the freedom to say no. Should you say no? No. Y'all already don't get enough eyes on you anyway. And it becomes this battle of the athlete. I want control over this is like a steering wheel. I want control over the narrative, but I also don't want you to run my story. So it's like this battle of like, I want control over the narrative, but I also don't want to come to media day. So how does that work? It's, I want control over the narrative, but I don't want to speak to certain outlets. I can respect it. I definitely can. But then don't get upset when the narrative is confused. Because when the narrative gets confused, it's because that was your opportunity to clear the air and you decided not to. Media and athletes are partners. Obviously, we're there in those really vulnerable moments and those frustrating moments where you did not compete the way you wanted to. Like that game where, other sports did not go how they would have wanted it to go. But at the end of the day, they're right there in that press conference. They are. And I, like with my students, like my reporting students, I definitely tell them, is there such thing as a stupid question? Yes. However, Do not be fooled by social media about what's a dumb question and what's not. There are athletes that have bit at worse things, and I have examples of it. You can ask an athlete, what type of meal are you going to celebrate with since you won? And an athlete can be like, that's dumb. Like, ask me, like, that's such a stupid question. Why would you ask me what I'm going to eat after this? Okay. And then you might have another athlete who's like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to get a triple chocolate molten cake from Chili's. I eat one every time I PR. Now all of a sudden people are like, oh, like young athletes are like, I can eat a molten cake? I had no idea, you know? But if that one athlete tells you that that question was stupid, then everybody, oh my God, even on the internet is like, yeah, that question was stupid. Like, why would you eat? Why in the world would you even ask that? But then there's another athlete who is more than willing to answer it. Also, something that I have also seen, the younger athletes could use a lot more media training, which it doesn't suck like I was about to say, but it is something to get used to. It definitely is, especially for those younger athletes. It's something to get used to. They were not getting as much recognition in the past like they are now. Now they have all eyes on them. Now these athletes can be famous before they even reach college, before they reach the pros. And we're going to get into that next with the NIL. So should there be media training to follow that? Heck yeah. Athletes need, especially these younger athletes, you got to start them young. And a coach that does it really well is Coach Joe Lee from Bullis. He trains his athletes obviously on the track, but off of the track to handle us, the media, really well. Really, really well. There's been so many times where his athletes might not have run up to his standard or, up to their own standard. They're upset about it or they have. And I mean, Quincy is halfway across the track because he's been celebrating. And I'm like, Coach, I really need him for this interview. Done. And that's if I'm on the broadcast or not. Coach Jolie is going to go get Quincy every single time, even if it's for my personal social media page or for a broadcast. Because he knows that at the end of the day, people need to hear Quincy Wilson's story. At the end of the day, they need to hear all of his athlete stories. And how are they going to hear it if you don't even want to talk to us? How are we going to know about Bullis? If you don't talk to us, and I think that he is a coach that understands that fact really well. And starting them young, like I said, because at the end of the day, these athletes are getting more and more famous and they're not even pros yet. So what are you saying? Like, oh, well, they're just kids. Yeah. So they're not making kid money. Okay. And that takes me to my next point. NIL, name, image, and likeness. This came into effect the year after I got out of college. The year after I got out of college. Very unfortunate, might I add. Okay. Is NIL ruining collegiate sports? I liked this question a lot. Funny enough, there was just there was just a hearing that the legend Nick Saban was at recently, where he was talking about the state of collegiate football because of NIL. We all know Nick Saban's stance on NIL. He doesn't like it. If you didn't know, he doesn't like it. A lot of people say that attributed to him retiring, because he pretty much couldn't handle the state of like what things were turning into. And that is so valid. To add perspective, do I absolutely believe that athletes should be getting paid? Without a doubt. Absolutely, without a doubt. I did think that it was going to be more product and then this is how you get paid type of format about it. And then that kind of changed. And here's what I mean by that. Let's take football for an example. That's really easy to understand. For football, if you have, we're just going to use me, my last name Douglas. If you're selling a jersey for the University of Texas that says Douglas on the back, number 3, if I was a football player, and you are making $50,000 off of that a month, Do I expect a percentage of that? Absolutely. That is my name. That's the N in the name, image, and likeness. Okay? Do I expect a percentage off of that? Yes. That is what I thought. And you can take that logic and apply it to the other sports. That's what I thought NIL was going to be about. And that is what NIL was at first, in the very, very beginning. That is what NIL was about in little levels. You know, like you have this mouse, for example, like, oh, me, Julia and Alfred, uses this mouse every day. And they're like, oh, you throw in code Juju20 and now Juju gets a percentage off of the fact that she was like, I use this mouse every day. Now people are buying it. You know, I thought it was going to be very much like product and this is what you get. And then things changed. It's genius. But things shifted. And it changed to, I remember the first big thing that really shook me when the first year out of track, and I was a beat reporter, and I would interview Texas football players. Something that passed while I was doing that, which just was like, this is what NIL is about. Like I said, I thought it was product. We were paying those athletes to do the interviews with me. That's, service for payment. Then Texas got like some huge donation for like $50,000 or I don't know, $100,000 towards offensive linemen that come to Texas. And that surprised me because I'm like, what? They're just going to give them like $50K like just for coming? What? And I was like, that's NIL? Huh? And that was just interesting. I have heard about football players doing Pilates with donors, and it's like, thanks for doing Pilates with me. Here's $20K. Huh? And that even could be a form of NIL for sure. Like if you were putting my face on your Pilates studio, yeah. But NIL has turned into something unimaginable now. And athletes are signing NIL deals before they even get to college. And that is blowing my mind. So it gets to the point where, to me, they're basically already professional athletes. What's the difference between them and pros? Quickly. Like, what's the difference at that point? And then you see athletes, like you see a lot of the track athletes not wanting to leave college because they make more money in college than they do on those pro contracts. Jacoby Tharp, like he's like, oh, look, I'm gonna be making a lot more money in college. I want, and he wants records, he wants certain accomplishments. That makes sense. But it's like, I'm gonna stay in college as long as I can. And because, shoot, I'm more valuable in college. So ruining, I would have to say to a certain degree, there needs to be boundaries. There needs to be a line. Where do you draw the line in NIL? And I think that's what Nick Saban was saying. And I know this is a track podcast, but like, it has become a problem in all sports. Because where do you draw the line in it between NIL athletes and professional athletes? They're making more than professional athletes at this point. They're making money before they've even stepped on college campuses at this point. And then it harms recruiting. I will not call it the coaches, but I've heard from coaches where it's like, when coaches came to my house for my official visit, I'm over there asking them about their major. There's certain degrees that they have, their buildings, like, how much rest do you give the athletes? What do you do if you get injured? Are you going to kick them off the team? Those were the things that were important to me. I have literally heard from coaches that have sat across from 17 and 18-year-olds, and they're literally like, how much money are you giving me? Well, UGA is offering me $40,000, and I want to retire my parents. What are we talking about? You're 17 years old. How do you compete with that, especially when your university does not have the type of system that is able to give out money like that? And I know Texas is one of them that don't do it like that. They don't have revenue sharing. So it's just become very, very sticky. I think that the athletes are absolutely meant to get money. Yes. But I do believe that there needs to be some more regulations. And I think that is what Nick Saban in the hearing was saying. I think that's what we need. Regulation. That is my end all be all thoughts on it. Is that there needs to be a line drawn in the sand. And regulations on it. There has to be. There has to be a cap. There's a salary cap for NFL. So like there has to be some type of cap. It needs to be something, you guys. Or it will ruin collegiate athletics. Yes. All right, y'all. I enjoy doing these viewer questions with you guys. I like this. I'm definitely going to ask for a lot more, but make sure you guys are liking, commenting, and subscribing to Track News Daily.